Welcome back to The Update. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Daniel.
And today we are going to be covering current events from around the world, UNESCO, and then move to all things Arizona. Stay tuned, the update begins soon. Thanks again for being with us here today, and it's that time again. It's What's the Haps with the Maps. In a stand of defiance of the war and the havoc it has wreaked on their communities, leaders from 44 European countries, stretching from Iceland to Turkey, met last week and addressed the fact each has a similar issue to the other in ways of high inflation, energy crises, and conflict. Not all were members of the European Union, or the EU as it's more commonly referred to, and that was exactly the point, to stand in solidarity. The leaders showed and stated in this inaugural meeting they must all work together and not just the EU. French President Emmanuel Macron is credited with the creation of this assembly, and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz backed him. Now his aim and their aim is to forge a common strategy to confront the challenges Europe is facing. Chancellor Scholz said the new European grouping is not about creating a new institution with an administration and bureaucracy, but instead a venue for heads of state and government to meet regularly. Let's hope this really works. And by the way, the only other country besides Russia not in attendance was Belarus due to their involvement and support for the war. Now moving over to the United Kingdom, concern is growing over the possibility, although it's being reported as unlikely, of the national grid, which powers the United Kingdom, running so severely on its volume of natural gas that citizens could experience short-term outages during this winter. This is an unprecedented time heading into the winter season, and this is due to the crude oil and natural gas sanctions imposed on Russia because of the war. And according to reports, regional powers are scrambling to ensure adequate supplies during the winter, and even Germany has said it would hold off on abandoning their nuclear power to ward off an energy emergency. Substitutes such as coal power are being looked into should any issues occur. Now in the Middle East, in Iran, not too long ago we talked about the death of Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old woman who died while in the custody of Iran's military police. Amini was detained reportedly for breaking the rules about the hijab, and while in custody, she unfortunately passed away, and the government maintains it was caused by underlying health issues. However, Amini's family remains confident she died at the hands of the police. What started off as a protest within Iran has transformed to a worldwide message. Women and some men have had enough of the strict regulations, and they have been cutting their hair, including celebrities, to stand in solidarity with the protesting citizens. There are those too who believe the exact opposite. That's how it normally goes, right? We always have two sides. Other citizens, men and women, are holding their own protests in support of Iran's rules and say that the sway of the protesters is fueled by the United States, and that this is what the U.S. does. They cause internal conflict within other countries, including what is happening right now. Gives you something to think about. We believe how we live is the right way and everybody should be following example, and we think we are helping others. So what about those who firmly believe in tradition and are opposed to any deviation from the set rules? If you guys have any comments, make sure you let us know and send us a message at HYFN TV. And back here in the U.S., in a huge announcement, President Biden announced Thursday he is pardoning people with federal convictions for simple possession of marijuana. This is also an unprecedented move that has the ability to help more than 6,500 people, along with sending a powerful message on how such action should be treated. Now, most convictions for marijuana possession are at a state level, and Arizona and other states have legalized the use. However, other states have not and continue to harshly punish those convicted. Along with the pardons, Biden also asked the Departments of Justice and Health and Human Services to review how marijuana should be scheduled under federal law. While this is great for those it helps, is this happening now to hike the popularity numbers? Again, let us know what you think. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll be talking about the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. And of course, we will be talking to you a lot about the stuff about Arizona. Welcome back to the update on the HYFN TV network. We're bringing it back with more world organizations, as DJ Khaled would say, and another one. Daniel has this report for you.
That was a good one. Today we are talking about the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. That's a mouthful, so we're just going to go by its acronym, UNESCO. This organization was established in 1945 with a mission of building peace through international cooperation, which will hopefully build bridges between nations. We checked out all the info on their website, and here are some highlights of what this organization does. First, UNESCO is a laboratory of ideas offering a broad range of expertise in the fields of education, the sciences, and culture. That means they have multiple areas of focus, much like the other UN organizations that we've talked about over the last week. The key difference with this one is it's the only United Nations agency with a mandate to cover all aspects of education, and will even lead the Global Education 2030 agenda through Sustainable Development Goal 4. Those two topics will be discussed next week. So like we said, there are multiple areas of focus, and these include education, natural sciences, the ocean, social and human sciences, culture, communications, and information, Africa, and gender equality. I mean, that is quite the list, and trust us, when researching all of this, you could probably have at least a 3-hour discussion on just the basics of what this organization does. And we don't have that kind of time here. We have 1 hour to tell you tons of things. So we're just gonna give you a few highlights. When it comes to education, UNESCO believes it transforms lives, and it is truly at the heart of their mission to build peace, eradicate poverty, and drive sustainable development. It provides global and regional leadership in education, strengthens education systems worldwide, and responds to global challenges through education. The underlying principle there is gender equality. In the ways of communication and information, UNESCO actually helps defend and promotes freedom of expression and media independence. Exactly how do they do this? Through capacity building policy advice, international cooperation, monitoring and foresight in the fields of freedom of expression, access to information, and digital transformation. Each year they hold a global conference on universal access to information, and this year it was held in September in Uzbekistan. The focus was on the artificial intelligence, e-governance, and access to information, and international experts were there to discuss the benefits and risks. Some of the questions proposed were, how can artificial intelligence be used as an empowering tool for persons with disability to access public information? And how can citizens' rights be guaranteed when e-governance services are outsourced? Man, that's a lot of responsibility they got there. Now back to you, Tiff.
Thank you, Daniel. That's a ton of responsibility for sure. And it's pretty impressive to think about the roles of our government. Now, could you imagine that role on a world stage? Crazy. Stay tuned. Daniel is going to give you the lowdown on the House of Representatives. And we are back. We here on The Update and the HYFN TV network are your election news leaders. We tell you all the time how important it is to know about what's going on in government, both nationally and locally, and to know about who is elected to run it. Now, it's been a minute since we've discussed politics, and the last time we did, we discussed the Senate. Today, Daniel is going to give you all you need to know.
All right, get ready for a lot of great information. To start off, the United States House of Representatives, which goes by a couple other names such as the U.S. House or simply the House, is the lower chamber of the United States Congress, with the Senate being the upper chamber. Together they comprise the national bicameral legislature of the United States. The House is composed of representatives who sit in single-member congressional districts allocated to each state on the basis of population, and that is measured by the United States Census. Each district usually has one representative. These representatives, also referred to as a congressman or congresswoman, are elected to 2-year terms, serving the people of those specific congressional districts. The House has 435 members total. There are also roles within the House of Representatives. For example, Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. What that means is she serves as their leader and has multiple roles, such as presiding officer administrative, the head of the House, leader of the majority party, and the Speaker's official duties include referring bills to committees, appointing members to select and conference committees, counting and announcing all votes on legislation, and signing all bills passed by the House. Another major role is the fact that the Speaker of the House is in line to succession of the President, following only the Vice President. Now, there are also leadership teams and roles for both the Democratic and Republican parties. For the Democratic Party, there's the majority leader, who is Representative Steny Hoyer. We got the majority whip, Representative James Clyburn, and the assistant speaker, Catherine Clark, and the Democratic Caucus chairman, Representative Hakeem Jeffries. The Republican side has their leadership roles as well. We've got the Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy. The Republican whip is Steve Scalise. Republican conference chairman is Elise Stefanik. And the Republican Policy Committee chairman is Gary Palmer. When it comes to the leadership teams, leaders are elected by the two-party conferences in each chamber. House members consider a number of factors when choosing leaders, such as their personal reputation, interactions with other members, legislative skills, expertise, experience, length of service, and of course, knowledge. These leaders generally coordinate legislative initiatives and serve as the chief spokespersons for their parties on the House floor. And these positions are typically held by experienced legislators who have earned the respect of their colleagues. Now we go back to Tiff.
Thank you, Daniel. There is so much to learn about the government. I mean, sure, we learn what we do in school, but if you do more digging, you'd be surprised to learn things you may not know and or remind yourself about how it all works, which is a great segue into our next segment, the Constitutional Corner. Today we are talking about the importance of the separation of powers. So what is that exactly? Well, the dictionary defines it as an act of vesting the legislative, executive, and judicial powers of government in separate bodies, or in simpler terms, it just means that the bodies of our government are separate. Why do you think that is? It's important so no branch does not become too powerful. The U.S. has a system of checks and balances in order to ensure no body of government gains too much power. So you may remember, we have the legislative branch, which can make new laws or change existing ones. And think about it, we wouldn't want them to become too powerful. What would we do if they could just change the laws whenever they wanted. A bill first has to be approved by both houses of Congress, then it goes to the president, where he can sign it into law or veto. If vetoed, it goes back to the houses or Congress, where the veto can be overridden with a 2/3 vote of those present in both the House and Senate. This is how its power is kept in place. Then we have the judicial branch, or judicial review. This branch of the U.S. government is the system of federal courts and judges that interprets laws made by the legislative branch, and this also includes the establishment of the Supreme Court. The separation of powers guarantees the judicial branch cannot overreach its powers by allowing Congress to make amendments to the Constitution. And finally, we have the executive branch, which carries out and executes the nation's laws. The president is chief, and it includes the vice president, the president's cabinet, 15 executive departments, and numerous other agencies. The president is also the commander-in-chief to the military and signs legislation passed by both houses of Congress. The president also has veto power, like we talked about earlier, but so does Congress, and guess what? That creates the checks and balances. Nobody wants a president to be able to do whatever they want, just ask citizens of numerous countries around the world. Hope you learned something so far with us here today on the update. Don't go away. When we come back, it's Arizona's time.
Welcome back, everyone. It's that time to focus on the great state of Arizona. First up, Tiff is telling you about some interesting stories about what's currently going on.
That is right, Daniel. Starting off, Arizona is making national headlines regarding in-state tuition rates for non-citizens. The possible new law will be decided this November, where voters will decide if students, regardless of their immigration status, can obtain financial aid and cheaper in-state tuition at state universities and community colleges. Education and access to it have been a hot topic in many states now and has been on the incline. As it currently stands, there are 18 states in the U.S. who already provide for this type of access. The proposal, known as Prop 308, would generally repeal some parts of the earlier initiative and allow all students, including non-citizens, to receive in-tuition rates as long as they have graduated from and attended public or private high school, or the homeschool equivalent for 2 years in Arizona. As with most topics, again, as we said earlier, there are those in favor and those against. A positive effect was to make sure the smartest young people remain and seek jobs in the state, no matter what their immigration status is. And there are those too who feel that this should be handled more at the federal level. Now moving on, next, the election race is heating up. It is a close call so far for many of the offices. The parties, of course, are the Democrats and Republicans. And it's fun. Sorry about that, guys. Live there, you know how that goes. I digress. For the Senate race, Democrat and incumbent Mark Kelly so far is inching out Blake Masters, according to recent polls. Then there's the intense governor's race between Carrie Lake and Katie Hobbs. There's been no debate between the two, and current polls show they are neck and neck, sitting at an even around 49%. This will be a fun race to watch for sure. We'll keep you updated more next week about all of the candidates. Back to you, Daniel.
All right. Next up, we're talking about weird and fun facts about Arizona. Now, how much do you love McDonald's? Love it or hate it? It's a staple in America. Did you know, though, Arizona is home to the first drive-through window for McDonald's? That's right here in Sierra Vista. And this was a result of soldiers not being allowed to get out of their vehicles while off post. Thank you once again to the soldiers, and shout out McDonald's for feeding the soldiers during that time. Then, in the movie Oklahoma, another American classic, this was filmed in Arizona, despite being called Oklahoma. As many believe it would be filmed there, right? Nah, you're wrong. It's filmed here, in this great state. And it was filmed actually in the San Rafael Valley, located about 35 minutes from Nogales. Directors get super creative when filming, and Arizona is in the hearts of many of them. They even planted corn a year ahead of filming so it would be ready for the movie. Now that's dedication and planning right there. Now next, picture this, a 1,300 foot tall skyscraper. And now stack 4 of those. It's pretty high, right? That's pretty tall right there. And it's still not tall enough to reach the rim from the bottom of the Grand Canyon. If that's not cool enough, the Grand Canyon's rocks expose over 1 billion years of age. Mind blowing. Now moving right along, another piece of American history. And now I'm feeling like DJ Khaled bringing another one. Anyway, have you heard of the gunfight at the OK Corral in Tombstone? Guess what? That happened right here in Arizona in the year 1881. It's considered the most famous shootout in the Old West. And who says Arizona wasn't a progressive state? Did you know Arizona women were granted the right to vote 8 years before the national law? That's what's up, AZ. And to wrap it up, another amazing sight to see is a meteor crater located in Winslow, Arizona. It is the best preserved meteor crater in the world. Did you hear that? In the world. The crater is said to have been 150 feet wide. The meteor, 150 feet wide. It weighed several 100,000 tons and crashed into the earth at a force of 150 times greater than an atomic bomb. Again, insane. That's literally a piece of Earth's history in our backyard. Now that's gonna wrap up the show today. Make sure you check back in next week. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Tiff. For more shows like The Update and other shows on our network, make sure you catch us on your phone at HYFNTV.com or download our channel on Roku, HYFN TV. We hope you all have a great weekend. Bye! Welcome back to The Update. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Daniel.
and today we are going to be covering current events from around the world, UNESCO, and then move to all things Arizona. Stay tuned, the update begins soon.